And so we did get to the hospital. We had pulled right into the ambulance bay, and like, you know, my mom had to run into the ER and say like, there's a woman having a baby. And they were like, yeah, bring her in. She's like, no, you don't get it. Like, she's physically in the car, like having the baby.
Welcome back to another episode of Moms on the Mic with Mariah. Today is Megan's episode where she discusses a lot of her self-growth as a mother and the transition to motherhood and how that has impacted her. I really loved the way that she put it because she talks a lot about it kind of being the death of her and the rebirth of her as a new person, as a mother, and I found that to be very spot on with kind of how I felt and how one of my providers had explained it to me of what it would be like being a mother and kind of your identity shift and what that meant for her. And so if you're someone listening who really maybe has had trouble navigating this, becoming a new mother, or even if you've been a mother for a while, or thinking about becoming a mother, I think this episode would be perfect to listen to. And so I hope you guys really enjoy it. I took a lot away from it, and I think it's important for women to have these conversations because I think we all have similar thoughts, or many of us have similar thoughts, and her being able on this platform to discuss it, I think normalizes these thoughts that we have, things we miss or don't miss, or things we've accepted or learned to grow into. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Here we go. Here's Megan. So Megan, thanks so much for coming on. I am super excited to dive a little bit into your life. So thank you for coming on Moms on the Mic with Mariah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself, your spouse, how old you are, and how many kids you have.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Megan France, and I'm, how old am I? I'm 31, and I have two little girls, Kelly, who's 2.5, and then Chloe, who's almost a year. She turns a year on June 16th. And then I'm married. My husband, Christian, he's a bit older than me. He's like 9 years older than me. And yeah, we live in Oxnard in SoCal. And then for work, I really I associate my identity with my work. So I always feel the need to bring it up. But we run an e-commerce, automotive and power sports parts business. So I'm CEO of that.
Good for you.
Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it.
That's really cool. So your husband's 9 years apart from you, so is mine. So that's cool. Did he want kids right away? Like, was he more focused on his business at first, or like, how did you guys kind of decide you wanted to have children?
Oh God. Well, no, he did not want children. He did not want to get married. No, I always like to say I tricked him. But yeah, no, I mean, it was tough because I was his girlfriend for too long, and I was running his company already. And then he knew that I wanted kids though. Like that was just, it was like part of the deal. And so, you know, we got married, and then I was like, okay, it's time to have babies. But it's funny because he is like obsessed with our children. He thinks it's the best decision we have ever made, and he wants more babies. He wants lots of babies. So it worked out well.
How many kids did you want, like going into the relationship, and how did you navigate that, knowing that he didn't want kids initially?
I mean, I think I just like, I don't know. I mean, it was a little bit of a gamble. I wanted 2 to 3, and he just, yeah, I mean, for him, you know, he sees it as a huge responsibility, which obviously it is. And, you know, and in a way, I feel like he was maybe more prepared than me because I knew it was a big responsibility, but it doesn't like click until you have them and you're like, holy crap. But he wants a big family. I think he wants 4.
Wow, he's changed. That's a lot of kids because 4 is a lot.
Yeah, I think I need like a year of sleep. Like I need a year of good sleep, and then maybe I'll consider having more.
How were your pregnancies with the kids? Was it pretty easy for you, or were they a harder pregnancy?
They were decent. Like, so Kelly was pretty easy. I mean, you know, comparatively to other pregnancies. I mean, pregnancy is never really easy. I worked like right until up to 2 days before, which I regret doing because I think that I was focusing much more on the physical preparations for having kids. I mean, you're so inundated with like, buy this, do that, baby showers, and I didn't prepare enough mentally. And then my second one, what also went, I was just like way more nauseous. We had kind of our honeymoon sort of during that one, because COVID delayed it and all that. But yeah, I was just more nauseous. But overall, it was good. I mean, I really wanted to do the midwife, thing, but I didn't get to because I had low platelets. And so I had to go the OB route. But I found one that was known for honoring the choice to do like a natural birth. And then I had a doula who was so instrumental in the whole process. So yeah, I think they were decent.
Yeah, so your birth, it's my understanding you had a kid in a car.
Yeah.
So like, what the fuck? I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. So like, what happened?
Dude, like she just fell out. I don't even know. Like Kelly, my first was pretty fast. I mean, it was about 2 hours after he broke my water. But Chloe, I was like at home. My doula had left to go to Target for a second. My doctor had just called and was like, how are you doing? No matter what, even if you don't go into labor and really start getting contractions, just meet me at the hospital at 7. And I was like, you know what? I think this time it's gonna happen. Like for sure I'll be at the hospital at 7. Like I think I'm almost there. And then like an hour later, I think it was like 5 o'clock, and it was kind of like I could feel my contractions getting closer and closer together, and within 15 minutes I like couldn't talk. And then I just felt this like pop, and we're still in my living room. So then I just feel this pop, and I'm like, oh shit, that's my water. And so that comes out, and then I look at my doula just kind of looks at me, and she's like, Megan, we have to get you in the car. And I look at her, I'm like, dude, I can barely fucking walk. Like, and she's like, we need to have this baby in a hospital. And I was like, my eyes just got big, and I was like, oh shit. So I think my contractions were like a couple minutes apart then. So I like, hobbled to the bathroom. She like threw a diaper on me. And then she, we go to the car, and she had to drive behind us. So it was me and my mom and Christian. And right as she's about to close the door to get me in the car, she looks at me and she's like, if you feel the need to push, birthday candles. So it was like that reminder to like blow air out like lightly so that you're not like pushing too hard. And so, I was instructed by her to sit on the back seat and like, on my knees and face the back of the car. And Christian was like, we're not going to buckle her up. She's like, no, she's going to have a baby. And, when you're on your knees in the car, you don't have like a good anchor point. Like with every turn, you're kind of swaying to the left and to the right, and your contractions are huge, and I'm screaming and I'm cussing and I'm like telling him to drive faster, but he's trying to be careful, and the hospital's 15 minutes away. And so I just got this like instinctual urge to get down onto like the floor of the car because I'm like lower, right? So I can anchor myself and I'm not like swaying too much. And so we did get to the hospital. We had pulled right into the ambulance bay, and like, my mom had to run into the ER and say like, there's a woman having a baby. And they were like, yeah, bring her in. She's like, no, you don't get it. Like she's physically in the car, like having the baby. And so kind of like before the doctor could really get to me, I just had 2 big contractions, and I like fell down, and she was crowning, and then the next one she just like fell out. And my doula is like a fucking badass, so she like managed to not only catch the baby, the ER doc just looked at her and she looked at him. She was like, it's coming out. Like, do you want to catch it? And he was like, no, you go ahead. So she got it. But like right before that, she managed to take her phone and put it in the like back pocket of the seat. So she fucking recorded everything.
Whoa, that's so cool though to have the memory.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's just like my giant ass and like a baby coming out. But it's it's like really, it's pretty cool. And then I had to climb over the umbilical cord to like get out of the car. And then they like threw me on a stretcher and took me into the ER, and everyone was like clapping and stuff.
This is super funny. It's funny, but it's not, because it's like serious, you know? They're clapping.
I was just like, what the fuck? And like, the anticipation of 9 months, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the hospital. I'm going to have my bouncy ball. And then you get to the hospital and it's like already done. And you're like, oh, okay, can I leave now? You know?
Wow. So I don't even know how we top that. But so like, what happened after kids for you? Like, what was it like having these children? So now you have 2 kids, one you had in a car. You come home with the kids. So like, what was it like for you, like having children?
Yeah, I mean, the first one was definitely a shock for me, and the beginning was difficult. So for one, I remember being in the hospital room, and like I didn't fall in love with her right away. I mean, I loved her, but like I was so exhausted and, mainly sleep deprived, because I had her just after midnight. And then, she has to feed like every 5 minutes, it felt like. And the people at the hospital, like, they kept coming into the room. I'm like, can't you guys like consolidate your rounds so that I can get some fucking shut-eye? Every time I fall asleep, like another person's coming in.
It's so true. They're like, I need to bathe the baby. I need to feed the baby. I need to check you. It's like, get the fuck out of my room, please. I'm trying to sleep.
I know. And yeah, so it took me a second, and I remember when she came out, I was like, holy fuck, like those were my words. And then I had what's called like DMER or DMER. So basically every time, and this happens with both pregnancies and will continue to happen, but every time I have a letdown, I get this insane anxiety. Like it's not emotional, it's like totally physiological. So apparently the explanation is that your dopamine levels drop, and they drop like too low. And so it's this like chest crushing, like almost nauseating anxiety. And I know about 30 seconds before my milk is going to drop, because I get this insane anxiety. But of course, as a new mom and you have no idea what this is, you think, oh, this is what having a baby is like. It's insane anxiety. It's lots of feeding. And then like, I got diagnosed by the lactation consultant, and they explained it to me, and it was a little bit better. But pumping, I mean, just horrible. Like, you're just sitting on the couch, like in excruciating anxiety, So I started formula feeding at 3 months, and I think that was when the fog like lifted, and I could gain normalcy again.
Yeah, those DMERs, yeah, I think that's what it's called. I actually was told that I had that before I got my diagnosis, and my eventual diagnosis, but I do know what that feels like, because every time my milk would come down, I didn't feel good either. Like, I totally get that. And so you stopped breastfeeding. Did you just not breastfeed the second child because of that? Or what did you decide to do with the second kid?
Well, I think that like, it sucks, because when I asked them, okay, what can we do about this? They basically said nothing, but they said that the main thing that helps is just the awareness of it, like knowing that it's like fake anxiety, basically. Mm-hmm. So with Chloe, I really wanted to try again, and I just went into it more aware. I expected it. I wasn't confused. And I do think it was like slightly better. So I did make it to 6 months with Chloe. But, I was pretty proud of myself for that. But same thing. As soon as you can formula feed, things just get like way easier, because other people can feed them, and
What was it like with the emotional labor of like a child, and taking that on with your first child versus your second, and just in general? Like, how would you describe that?
I think with like your first child, you are simultaneously going through the difficulties of postpartum, which is, the crazy hormones, the accepting your new body and like getting to know what that's like. And so you're just like, I didn't have a lot of clarity on anything. I didn't know if my body was ever going to come back. I didn't know what the next few months was going to be like. Like I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know how long it would take for me to feel like a normal person again. And at the same time, you know, I'm sort of grieving the loss of the person I was before. And I didn't really know when I was going to get that back. Because like your old life is in some ways like totally over, right? It doesn't mean that you'll never be able to get it back, or like, you know, on here and there you can like experience that again. But, you know, having children is permanent. So that to me was the biggest shift. And on like a more superficial note, the thing that stuck out to me the most was that like I couldn't get anything done anymore. Like I'm a highly productive person. And I was like, Jesus, like this kid needs me constantly. Like I had to shift from when I'm taking care of her, I can't do anything else, you know? Like I can clean my house, but like that's about it. I can't work, and I have to start working when she's sleeping. But of course, during naps, you're tired. So that was a huge shift for me, and just sort of giving that up, and yeah.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, because my psychiatrist said to me, well, before I gave birth, you know, I'm just making you aware that you die and you wake up as a new person, as a mother after the baby's born, but your husband will really be the same. Yes, he'll be affected in a lot of ways, but like you're going to be a lot differently, or you're going to act a lot differently, excuse me. And so like that sticks out to me, that like you say you're kind of like toast, right? And then you wake up as a new person. But how have you learned to navigate that? Because I guess I'm in that journey right now of finding balance. Like, how have you really found balance for yourself as a mother?
Becoming a mother is so wonderful in so many ways. I mean, we can talk about all the negatives, and there certainly are negatives. But it's wonderful because it does really push you to grow. Because I mean, for me, I just kind of would think about the problem and really, you know, instead of resisting it, I would think about like what is bothering me right now, and like what are solutions for it. And you just make small solutions to things, and you really become in tune with, you know, whatever you're feeling. So it's kind of like baby steps, I guess. Thinking about like why you're unhappy and like what you can do. And it requires a little bit more discipline for sure, because you have less time, right? For me, prioritizing sleep was a huge shift, because if I didn't have the energy during the day, not only could I not be as good of a mom as I wanted to be, I definitely wouldn't have energy to do any kind of thing other than being a mom. And then like also just acknowledging like where I need help. So, and then there's like also just a sense of acceptance, like, you know what, like this is my new life, and that's okay. And there will be times in the future where I can do the things that I want to do, but right now that's just not the season that I'm in, and that's fine. And I think like with my second, I realized how much I missed having a baby, and I was less focused on what was to come and more focused with like the phase that I was currently in. So that helped the second time around.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make some really good points about small changes, because I think it is just like small little things slowly turning into a day where you wake up and say, God, I'm doing like a lot better. Like I'm finding that balance, because I think I'm definitely getting there. How have you found time for your marriage? Like, what does that look like for you now?
You know, I mean, it's mainly just after the kids go down. We don't really we spend time together then. And, you know, he used to work really late, and so did I. And I don't know. I guess that's when we spend time together and planning, you know, I guess dates here and there, but it's different. We focus a lot on like family time. So as like the kids get older, you can do more activities that involve them. So we make sure on the weekends to like do family time. But yeah, I mean, sometimes like for a long time, a date between him and I was like literally just ordering like steak from DoorDash and like eating it at home and like finding a good show that we can watch together. But yeah, I mean, we used to go out to the bars. Like we couldn't do that anymore. So it was just like nice when both babies were down, or even when one baby was down, we're like, woohoo. Cause I mean, one quote that like really resonates with me is that being a parent is living your entire adult life after the kids go to bed, which is true. It's like after they're down, you're like, woohoo.
Yeah, you can like breathe. Yeah, it's I guess it's just about finding balance, and everybody has to find that like in one way or another, to manage it as a mother. But how have you felt like you've grown as a person? Like what are some really positive things that have happened since you've become a mother?
I feel like since having kids, I've had to reparent myself a little bit. So I'm reflecting back on my childhood in a way that I never had done before. And it has helped me realize, I mean, I'm like still heavily in process of this right now. So it's not like I've done all this work and it's done. I mean, I'm like in the thick of it still. But I just like thought about the things about my childhood that were kind of fucked up and like how that affects who I am now, and really thinking about my personality flaws and like how to fix them. And it's crazy how much everything just goes back to childhood. And when you have kids, you're like, holy shit, like I can totally fuck my kid up and I really don't want to do that. And like, how do we prevent that? And it starts with looking at yourself and seeing how you as a person can improve. And then, hopefully that will, hopefully your kids can learn from that.
How have you, like, I guess, when did you notice, like, that you needed to start doing that? Is that, you said you're in progress right now. Like, what age did you feel like that kicked in with your daughter, Kelly? I'm assuming that you said, okay, well, like, now it's kicking in where I really need to look at, like, myself, my behavior, and how not to fuck up my kid. I mean, I think the same exact way you do. Like, I don't want my kid to be in 20 years of counseling. So like, what am I going to do to, how's my behavior going to affect them? So what age did that kick in?
I mean, it started slightly during pregnancy, but I wouldn't say, like, for example, if my husband and I had a fight or something, I would wonder, if the baby could sense it. Mm-hmm. And then sort of the same thing when they're an infant, but ultimately they probably don't understand what's going on. But then when they become a toddler, for one, they get way more difficult, right? So they really, really test your patience, and that's when things come up, right? So like, how are you responding to them? How are you teaching them about their emotions? And like, are you able to keep your cool? Obviously I'm hinting that like, no, like sometimes I cannot keep my cool and I yell at them, and it's like there's so much learning involved, research, and every stage is different. So, but yeah, I would say toddlerhood is when that like really became evident for me, because they have language too, so you can like explain things to them and they understand. So that's like when the lessons come.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting that you bring that up, because it is something, I have definitely thought about as a mother. It's like the impact of these kids. I mean, they're basically like a piece of Play-Doh. Like, you're molding them in a lot of ways. Like, your behavior is going to impact them.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I always think about how, trauma in that sense, like, I'm not necessarily talking about like really serious trauma, but I feel like any type of situation where you're like, your emotions are really dysregulated for like a long period of time can be considered trauma. And like, how that stuff is so intergenerational. Like, one bad childhood leads into a next, leads into a next, leads into a next, into the next. And like our generation certainly has so much more knowledge about parenting, I think, but I might just be assuming that, but it's the information age, right? So it's a lot easier to get access to research and professional opinions and things like that, so easily accessible. So I really hope that some of that intergenerational trauma can be broken, but it's of course dependent on so many things, like education level and how cushy your life is. I mean, so I worry so much about children. Like it's just crazy how everything in life just boils down to like your childhood,
Yeah, it's very important. As a mom, what do you miss the most about your life before kids?
Like I love my freedom, I guess, if I were to summarize it, but I also like I really liked going out, honestly. Like I went to UCSB. I was kind of like a studious party girl. So, I mean, I like to get down. I don't get to do it that much anymore. I like going out to eat and not like needing to worry about your child like spilling things everywhere.
And what do you love the most about being a mother?
The cuddles.
Yeah, they're sweet.
Yeah, like when they're sleeping and they just look like little angels. And I mean, I know that's early childhood, but that's what I like about it now, and just like the connection and like when they are behaving and when things aren't stressful. Like it's just so fun taking Kelly to even like Target, and she's just, it's like you have a little buddy.
Yeah, it's been interesting talking to you because I think, you have a really great self-awareness, I would say, about yourself. And I think an ability to like understand both your strong suits and your, struggles, like as a mother. And I think you've put things just really well. You've placed things like the right wording in the right ways to help others, I think, listening, understand, and myself, like to be able to connect to you. What well-wish would you send to a mother and just around like self-growth, self-awareness, raising their children? What message would you send to them as we finish up?
I would say that just to, I don't know, I would say that, whatever you're going through, that things do get easier, and that, you just have to take the path of like least resistance and ask yourself questions about why you're feeling what you're feeling. The best way to be a good mother and to also enjoy being a mother is to like improve as a human, I guess. So just the more you ignore things and the more you like push them away, the worse it's going to get. And so, having like giving yourself grace too, and just like forgiving yourself for the things that you're not able to do well, I think helps a lot. Just like taking care of yourself in general. And also like I wanted to bring this up, but I don't know why. I kind of forgot. But one thing becoming a mother I've really noticed is that the patriarchy is alive and well. Trying to fight that in the best way that you can, setting boundaries, being a little bit more assertive about that stuff, and kind of, I wouldn't say like accepting it, but like being aware that like that's the world that we live in, and that finding support like from other women, even in this format, right, is gonna help with that.
Yeah, that's a very good ending point, because the patriarchy is alive. And I think as soon as you have that baby, at least for me, and I don't know if you agree with this, so I'll make this statement. Like, I felt the immediate shift where I think I was like a little bit more control of my life, and I was making these decisions, and I was on the top of my career, and these things were going well. And then I thought, wow, the perception of me has completely changed. Like, now I'm this mom. He's the man. I can't do these things. Like, people are constantly making comments to me to suppress me. Like, I didn't have a lot of support. I felt like it was just completely different. So I am glad this podcast exists, right? And there's other platforms for us to find a connection, right? But how would you say that's shown up for you as we finish up? Like, where has that patriarchy shown for yourself?
You know, I think that the biggest thing is just that men just don't, not all men.
They don't get it.
You know,
they don't get it. You can say it. I'll say it. Okay? They don't get it.
They just don't fucking get it, you know, because they just, it's just so subconscious, ingrained in them. They're entitled. They are, but they're unaware of it. Like, I don't know. Like, it just, I think it starts from a young age, and from, like, you know, maybe when their mom didn't make them clean the house or treat them equally. And so they just expect things and are okay with things, and they don't even realize how unfair it is. So it's an opportunity for education, and you know, we love them, but they, you know, I want my kids to see that it's a problem, you know, and hopefully when I have a son one day, I can raise him to be less like that.
Well, I have one, and he's going to get taught a lot about it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in full support of that. And I think it is being cognizant of it, understanding it's there, working around it, educating, speaking up, being assertive. You're clearly acknowledging that it exists, I think, is the biggest thing, and making it obvious to others that it does exist. And I think speaking up. So I think that's all we can do, and raise the next generation to be even more self-aware of it.
Yeah. And just, like, being a badass bitch and, like, being proud of it, you know, and not being afraid to like voice that, and not being, like, just communicating your accomplishments and communicating, like, how good you are at what you do, like, as a mom or in the workplace or whatever.
Yeah, I think those are really valid points. And, you know, I just want to say I appreciate you for coming on, because I think that there's a lot that you've highlighted today, you know, in our conversation that will be helpful not only to others, but it's also been helpful for me. And so thank you. I appreciate it. I know you're busy because you have 2 little kids. So we'll let you get on with your evening.
For sure, yeah. It was great talking to you. It's always nice, like, getting it out too, so.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Moms on the Mic with Mariah. We will see you all back here again next Monday. Go ahead and follow us on Spotify, Apple, and any major podcast platforms. On Apple Podcasts, rate and review us. Follow us on IG, YouTube, and TikTok at Moms on the Mic with Mariah, and let me know what issues you guys would like to hear on the podcast and any feedback. And also, if you'd like to come on and tell your story, go ahead and throw me a DM. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Another story from another lovely person. See ya.